She texted during my father's funeral. Can you pick up pizza on the way home? Also, can your family drama wait? I have friends coming over. I didn't respond. Just forwarded the screenshot to her mother. Her mother's response, and what happened next was the beginning of the unraveling of everything I thought I knew about the woman I was planning to marry. My name's Ryan, I'm 32, and until a few months ago, I genuinely believed I had life figured out. Stable job, a fiancée named Madison who everyone described as sweet and charming, a wedding date set for early fall, and the kind of future that looked predictable in a safe, comforting way. I used to think predictability was a blessing. Now I see it can also be a blindfold. My father passed unexpectedly from a stroke. No warning, no slow decline, nothing. 1 minute he was texting me about a busted sprinkler at his house, and the next I was standing in a hospital hallway listening to a doctor explain words that didn't even sound real. My mom was collapsed in a chair. My sister Emily was sobbing so hard. I thought she might stop breathing, and I was stuck in that numb space where everything feels muted, like someone turned the world's volume down. Madison didn't come to the hospital until 3 hours later, saying she got caught up with something. I didn't question her then. Grief makes you overlook things you normally wouldn't. The funeral was brutal. My dad was the glue of our family, and seeing my mother's face, staring at her husband's photo like she'd aged 10 years overnight, did something to me I still can't describe. People always say funerals bring families together, but sometimes they just highlight the cracks. My uncle kept arguing with my mom about burial arrangements. My aunt accused him of being controlling. My cousins bickered over who would help clean out Dad's workshop, and all that chaos somehow felt background by my own internal storm. I stepped outside for air during the service because the room felt too tight, and that's when my phone buzzed. I thought maybe it was a friend checking in, or the funeral home about paperwork, or something actually related to the nightmare day I was having. Instead, I saw Madison's name, and her message, "Can you pick up pizza on the way home? Also, can your family drama wait? I have friends coming over." I swear my brain just froze. I stared at that screen like it was written in another language. My father's funeral. Not his birthday, not a casual gathering, not some minor event she could have misunderstood. His funeral. And she called it family drama. I didn't reply. I didn't even think. I just took a screenshot with this strange, calm clarity, like the moment you finally realize you've been ignoring a giant red flag that's been waving in your face for months. I forwarded it to her mother, Linda, who had always been kind to me, always warm in that Southern mom kind of way despite us living in Colorado. Exactly 1 minute later, my phone rang. It was her. I stepped away from everyone, behind a row of cars in the parking lot. "Ryan," she said, her voice trembling in a shocked, furious way. "What did she just send me? Are you two fighting?" No, don't answer that. I know my daughter. I know how she gets. I am so sorry. You're at the funeral right now, aren't you? Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. She started crying. Actually crying. Meanwhile, my fiancée, the woman I expected to spend my life with, was asking me to grab pizza for her and keep my grief quiet so it wouldn't inconvenience her social plans. That contrast alone, something in me cracked. I went back inside after I calmed down, finished the service, hugged more people than I remember, thanked friends and neighbors who showed up, held my mom while she cried into my jacket, and tried not to think. Really tried. But grief has a way of stripping away the illusions you wrap around yourself. When Madison showed up at my house later, after all the guests had gone, after I'd helped my mom settle, after I dropped Emily home, she didn't start with an apology. She started with, "Why did you send that to my mom?" Not, "How are you holding up?" Not, "I'm sorry about your dad." Not even, "Maybe my text was insensitive." No, straight to being mad at being caught. She stood in my doorway with her arms crossed, chin up in that defensive posture she always took when she thought she was being unfairly criticized. Except this time I didn't soften. I didn't explain myself. I didn't play mediator, peacekeeper, the patient guy she always assumed I would be. I was too damn tired. "Madison," I said, "my father died. I buried him today. And you asked me to bring pizza." I didn't mean it like that. She shot back immediately. I was stressed, my friends were over, and "Stop." I said, Surprising both of us. I'd never used that tone with her before. You told me to put my family drama on hold. She flinched at the use of her own words. Ryan, can we not blow this out of proportion? You always get so emotional about your family. And that's when I realized exactly how little she understood me, or cared to. I walked past her, went into the kitchen, grabbed a folder off the counter, a folder that held funeral receipts, paperwork from the hospital, and the photo of my father I'd framed years ago for Father's Day. I set the folder down on the coffee table, looked her straight in the eyes, and said, "Do you have any idea what today was for me?" She opened her mouth, then closed it. Not to think. No, that would have been too hopeful. She closed it because she was annoyed she wasn't winning the argument. "I'm sorry," she said finally, but in that practiced, dismissive way people say sorry when they don't believe they did anything wrong. "I didn't mean to upset you, okay?" Upset? I laughed. Actually laughed. Something bitter and painful. "Madison, you weren't upset for me. You were upset you lost control over the situation." Her face tightened. "Are you trying to pick a fight with me after everything today?" "I'm trying to understand how the woman I love could say something like that to me." She rolled her eyes at me on the day of my father's funeral. That's when something inside me flipped. And once it flipped, it wasn't flipping back. I opened my phone, pulled up the screenshot, held it in front of her. "Look at this," I said. "Read it again. Out loud." "Ryan, this is childish. Read it." She stared at me, jaw clenched, nostrils flaring, the whole expression of someone who thinks cooperating will make them lose the argument. "I'm not reading it," she snapped. "That text was taken out of context." "Context," I said. "The context is that my father was being lowered into the ground." She looked away, and that was everything I needed to know. I didn't yell, didn't curse, didn't slam doors. I just said quietly, "I don't think we should get married." She whipped her head toward me. "You're ending our relationship because of a text message?" "Madison," I said, "that text wasn't the problem. It was the symptom." She started crying then, but it wasn't grief. I knew grief. This was panic. Panic that her image might shatter, that her plans might unravel, that she might have to face consequences for once instead of gliding around them. She reached for me, and I stepped back. "Don't," I said. She froze, hand hovering in midair. "Ryan, stop. You and we've been together 3 years. We've talked about a house, kids, a future. And you didn't show up for me on the worst day of my life." Her tears stopped instantly, like she realized crying wasn't working. She switched tactics. "So what, you're just going to throw everything away? Overreact like this? If you think this is me overreacting," I said, "that's exactly why I can't marry you." She didn't leave right away. She paced, ranted, accused me of being dramatic, accused my family of making everything about them. At one point she said, "Your dad wouldn't want you to destroy your life over something like this." That sentence almost made me lose it. But somehow, instead of exploding, I went very still. There's a kind of clarity that hits you when someone shows you exactly who they are, and you finally believe them. "We're done," I said. "I'll send you your things. Please leave." She stared at me like she didn't recognize me. Then she left without another word. I stood there in the silence for a long time after. The next morning is when everything truly exploded. I didn't expect her mother to call me again, much less show up at my house with a casserole and a steel-in-her-voice apology for her daughter's behavior. Linda hugged me, cried, said she was ashamed of Madison's text, and admitted she'd seen the signs of her daughter's self-centeredness for years, but hoped love would fix it. I told her she had nothing to apologize for. Later that day, Madison unleashed hell. Angry texts, voice messages, long paragraphs about how I'd embarrassed her by involving her mom, accusations that I prioritized grief over our relationship. Whatever that was supposed to mean. She tried calling my sister. My sister blocked her. She tried calling my mom. My mom, who had just buried her husband, told her to never contact her again. A week later, Madison showed up at my work. Security escorted her out. Then came the guilt emails, the "I'm going to therapy" messages, the "I didn't mean it" speeches. The I was overwhelmed paragraphs. The I can't believe you'd give up on us like this late night calls. I didn't answer any of them. Not because I hate her, not because I want revenge, but because something fundamental broke that day. Something I can't unknow. Something like this. If someone can't show up for you when your world collapses, they won't show up for you when life gets hard later. If someone demands you mute your grief so they can entertain friends, they don't love you. They love the convenience of you. A month passed. The wedding was canceled. Vendors refunded what they could. Friends asked questions I didn't answer. Family tried to tiptoe around the subject. Madison eventually moved out of state, according to her mom, who apologized again and again. I'm in therapy now. Grief therapy for my dad. Relationship therapy for the whiplash of realizing the person I was going to marry cared more about a pizza order than my pain. Healing isn't linear. Some days I still instinctively reach for my phone to text my dad. Some nights I still replay her message in my head because my brain is a jerk like that. But I'm getting there. Slowly. And weirdly enough, breaking up with Madison helped me understand grief more deeply. Grief isn't just losing someone who died. It's losing the future you thought you had. Losing the version of someone you imagined. Losing the illusion that love can fix selfishness. If anyone reading this is in a relationship where your partner belittles your pain, mocks your feelings, or treats your life like an inconvenience to their comfort, please listen to me. Love isn't supposed to make you smaller. Love isn't supposed to make you quiet your grief. Love isn't supposed to say, pick up pizza at your father's funeral. Walking away wasn't easy. It wasn't clean. It wasn't quick. But it was right. I'm learning to breathe again. And for the first time in a long time, I feel like the life I'm rebuilding, messy, imperfect, real, is actually mine.